Absolute effects are one of the most versatile and powerful tools in the EOS toolkit, and they're one that I always keep close at hand and that I find myself using most frequently because of their versatility. To create a new absolute effect, I'm going to open my effect editor again, and I'm going to create effect 806, and I'm going to make it an absolute effect. Now, in this example, I'm going to use some of the multi-cell fixtures that we have in this visualizer. Effects run the same on multi-cell fixtures as they do on standard fixtures. So don't let the fact that if you're not familiar with working with multi-cell fixtures, don't let the fact that we're using multi-cell fixtures in this example throw you. The effects work just the same. So I'm actually first going to go ahead and I'm going to turn them on. And I'm going to go into my effects editor. And it presents me with a standard base effect and takes the channel between a level of 0 or off and a background state. That is wherever the light currently is. So in a lot of ways, we can actually make absolute effects act the same as relative effects. And there are actually a lot more tools in our toolbox, in a way, in absolute effects to adjust stuff relative to where the light currently is. So let's take a look at what this looks like out of the box. If I select the pixels on that top bar there and I run that effect, you'll see that it's actually fading between, in this case, full and 0, because those fixtures are already at full. The power of using an absolute effect in this case with a background state as one of our steps is I can take those pixels and I can dim them down, and it's still going to run between wherever that value currently is and 0. So let me come back into this effect, and we've talked about the timing previously. I can make it do other things as well. So instead of having this value be 0, I can have it be a value relative to the current output. So for example, I can say at plus 15, enter. And now these pixels are going to go 15 points above wherever they currently are. Now they're at full, so we're not seeing a change, but as I dim these down, you're going to see that we actually get, it's very subtle on the visualizer, you can certainly see it here in the live table, we're actually getting this sweep of, from the level of the lights currently, 15% above. We can make that a little more dramatic, say at plus 25, and instantly you can kind of see that. As I dim these down, these lights are going to continue to go 25 points above whatever their current value is. And actually right now they're off, right? I've turned these lights off, so these lights are now going from 0, or the current state of the light, the current value of the light, to 25% and then back down to 0, because that's what the effect is telling it to do, go from the background state to 25 points above the background state. We also have some other neat things that we can do in absolute effects. So that's very similar, right, to using scale in a linear effect to go above or below our baseline. If I wanted to make this act a lot like a linear effect, I can actually come in here and I can add another line that is at plus minus 25. I need to add the plus minus in there because minus 25 is actually a legitimate values in some parameters. For example, a pan of negative 25 is a legitimate value. So we need to add the plus in there so that EOS knows it's doing math. It's not sending it to a particular value. So now we actually have something that looks a lot like a sine wave graph, where we are going 25 points above our baseline. We are coming back down to our baseline, which is our background state. And then we're going 25 points below our background state. And this has all happened, by the way, in real time. So as I've made those changes, it's actually reflected on the lights that are outputting on stage. So if I select those lights and I start dimming them down, you can actually see a more dynamic shift in this as the lights dim down, come back to our background state, dim up, and so on and so forth. So let me stop this effect from running for now. We're going to go back into this effect. Not only can we use plus 25 points or minus 25 points, we can actually make the light go a percentage above its current value or a percentage below its current value, which is not something that's accessible to us in a linear effect. So instead of saying plus 25, which is plus 25 points, I can say at plus slash 25. And notice that in the table here, instead of just saying plus 25, it now says plus 25%. I can do the same at plus minus slash 25. and now it's going to go minus 25%. So now it's actually going to do math as it run this effect. So let's take all of those top, set them to 50, and then we're going to run this effect. It's taking 25% of 50% and going above that, and then 25% of 50% and going below. So what's really kind of neat about this is as I increase the intensity of these fixtures, that effect stays relative in change as I dim it up and down. So if I dim these way down, let's say I dim them to like 10%, it's a very subtle effect because it's taking a percentage of the light's current value. So maybe I have a star drop effect or some sort of other subtle flicker that I want to keep relative to itself. Using percentage changes instead of just value changes help me keep everything kind of aligned to itself. So I've got this effect running. I'm actually going to make it a little more dramatic at +/50, at ±/50. So it's a little more dramatic. I'm going to label this effect. And I'm going to create another absolute effect. So effect, 807, absolute. And just like I can use other values in here other than 0 and 100, I can use background state. I can use these plus and minuses. I can also use reference data in here. So I'm going to come into level here, and I'm going to choose red as my level 1, and I'm going to choose dark blue as my level 2. And now I have a 2-action effect that is going to fade between red and dark blue. So I'm going to come out, and I'm actually going to select these fixtures again, but I'm actually going to use an offset. Let's offset mirror out, because selection order matters when dealing with effects, right? The order in which we select fixtures is the order in which the effect is going to run across those fixtures. And I'm going to run that effect. So now we have an absolute relative effect running on the intensity, and we have a reference data effect running mirrored out on the pixels up above. Where this is really helpful is because this is an absolute effect, I can run this on anything that's in these palettes, right? So I can go ahead and I can take the bottom of my back cyc, bring it to 50%. I can run that same intensity chase on it. And I can grab that back cyc and randomize it and run that same color chase on it. Part of the power of these relative effects is I can create it once and I can use it in multiple places. We're going to talk in another video about reusability of effects and how to organize that in your show file to make sure that you can maximize your productivity while minimizing the amount of time you spend in the effects editor.